Published in the August 2026 issue of Sampata magazine, and it completely shatters the illusion of the simple meal.
Oh, totally. Because safe food doesn't just happen by accident.
Right.
It is the outcome of thousands of hands working together. I mean, we were talking about ingredient suppliers, packaging manufacturers, transporters, and, those delivery partners on scooters.
Yeah, the guys weaving through traffic.
Exactly. And a lapse at literally any one of those points doesn't just spoil a batch of product. It instantly destroys consumer confidence that a brand has spent generations building up.
Because to the consumer, the brand is the product.
Exactly.
If someone gets sick from a bad batch of sauce, they don't care that the logistics company's refrigeration unit failed on a Tuesday afternoon. They blame the logo printed on the glass jar.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is to understand how this massive operation doesn't just constantly fall apart, we have to look at the rule book.
Okay.
Over the last decade, particularly under the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, or FSSAI, the entire philosophy of how we regulate food has been rewritten.
Rewritten how, exactly?
Well, the industry has moved away from the old model of just waiting around for a health inspector to show up. It's shifted to proactive risk mitigation.
See, I hear phrases like proactive risk mitigation, and it immediately sounds like corporate buzzword bingo to me.
Oh, sure. It sounds like something from a shareholder meeting.
Right. Like, how can a regulator realistically force thousands of tiny independent food manufacturers to be proactive?
It's a fair question.
Doesn't this just mean more annoying paperwork for them to fix? My brain instantly goes to a guy with a clipboard showing up at a restaurant once a year to make sure the chicken is in the fridge.
Right, but that is the cops and robbers dynamic of the past.
Cops and robbers.
Yeah, where you got your license and
Yeah.
you just hope nobody caught you making a mistake.
Okay.
The modern system forces companies to build safety into the actual architecture of their business before a single ingredient is ever mixed.
Wow. Okay.
Let's look at the digital infrastructure driving this. There is a centralized platform called Foscos.
Foscos?
Yeah, the Food Safety Compliance System. This isn't just a digital filing cabinet for licenses. It handles registration, daily inspections, audits, and recall management.
That's like a live ecosystem.
Exactly. It forces a factory manager out of that reactive mindset because their daily operational data is tied into this national system.
So instead of a regulator catching a mistake after the fact, the system demands that the factory engineer the process so the mistake is impossible to make in the first place.
You nailed it. That's the prevent shift Bilkish Raj talks about in the article.
Okay, let's look at how that actually works. The source throws around a lot of heavy acronyms for how this is actually done on the floor. GMP, GHP, and HACCP.
Right.
Hazard analysis and critical control point. That sounds like aerospace engineering, not making a batch of strawberry jam.
Well, it essentially is engineering, just applied to biology and chemistry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. GMP and GHP stand for good manufacturing practices and good hygienic practices. That's your baseline.
Like washing hands.
Exactly. That means ensuring workers wash their hands, the floors are sanitized, and the equipment is food grade. But HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point, is where the real science happens.
Okay, break that down for me.
Instead of just testing the final jar of strawberry jam to see if it's safe, a HACCP plan maps out every single second of the production process.
Every second. How does that actually look in a factory setting?
Okay, imagine that strawberry jam factory.
I'm picturing it. Lots of vats of fruit.
Right. The HACCP team identifies the exact points where a hazard could enter the product. Let's say metal shards from a blending machine.
Oh, man, yeah, that would be terrible.
That is a potential physical hazard. So they establish a critical control point right after the blending stage.
Yeah?
They install a highly calibrated metal detector on the conveyor belt. If that detector senses even a millimeter of metal, the belt stops automatically, an alarm sounds, and that specific batch is diverted to the trash.
So no human even has to make a decision.
Exactly. The factory doesn't just hope the jam is safe. They have a mathematical certainty that metal cannot pass that specific point. It is all about anticipating failure before it happens.
Which brings us to where the regulatory back end finally meets the consumer front end.
Right, the shelf.
Because the consumer doesn't see the metal detectors or the HACCP flowcharts. The very first thing you and I actually interact with when we buy something is the label and the packaging.
The only thing we interact with, really.
Yeah. I look at it this way. If a food product were applying for a job in my pantry, the label is its resume and the packaging is its armor.
Oh, that's a great analogy. The resume and the armor.
Right. And that resume has to be flawless.
And it is legally binding. For most consumers, that tiny printed rectangle is the only transparent window they get into the entire supply chain.
Which is a lot of pressure on a little sticker.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And consumers are highly informed now. They aren't just blindly looking at a cartoon mascot on a cereal box anymore.
Right, they're looking for macros and ingredients.
Exactly. They're actively comparing products, reading the fine print, looking for hidden sugars, artificial additives, and checking the sourcing practices.
Because if a company makes a misleading claim, say something is 100% natural when it's actually loaded with synthetic preservatives, they aren't just risking a regulatory fine. They are risking total public humiliation and the destruction of their brand loyalty.
Transparency is what builds trust, and the label is where that transparency is materialized.
Yeah.
And this is vital right now because of the skyrocketing prevalence of severe food allergies and highly specific dietary needs.
Oh, for sure. Food allergies are a huge deal now.
Right. If a factory processes peanuts on the same equipment as they process a supposedly nut-free granola bar, and they fail to declare that cross-contamination risk on the label,
That's a disaster.
it isn't just a marketing oversight. For a consumer with anaphylaxis, that label is literally a matter of life and death.
That is heavy. So the resume is literally keeping people alive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the armor then, the packaging itself.
Okay, the physical barrier.
Yeah, because there is a massive tension here that I want to explore. Packaging is this crucial safety layer that protects the food from oxygen, moisture, and bacteria during transit.
It keeps it fresh.
But manufacturers are now being heavily pressured to balance this physical protection with environmental duties.
Right, the sustainability effect,
Specifically, something called extended producer responsibility.
EPR.
Yeah, EPR. How do you make armor that is impenetrable to bacteria, but also environmentally friendly enough to satisfy modern recycling regulations?
It is an incredible material science challenge.
Yeah.
Because you are dealing with food contact materials which absolutely must not leach any harmful chemicals into the food itself.
Oh, right. Even if it gets hot in a truck.
Exactly, even when exposed to heat or acid.
Yeah.
That is the non-negotiable baseline. The packaging has to preserve quality, extend the shelf life to prevent food waste, and carry all that vital regulatory text we just talked about.
Right.
But under extended producer responsibility, the manufacturer is held financially and legally accountable for the environmental impact of that plastic or cardboard at the end of its life cycle.
Wait, really? So they are ultimately responsible for the trash they put out into the world.
Yes, exactly. They have to design for the landfill, or ideally the recycling plant, on day one.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Historically, the best way to protect food was using multi-layer plastics.
Like chip bags.
Yeah, exactly. You have a layer to block moisture, a layer to block UV light, a layer for structural strength.
It's a fortress.
It is a fortress, but multi-layer plastics are a nightmare to recycle. You can't just separate those layers.
Oh, I see.
So today, choosing packaging is a complex calculus. A company has to invent or source materials that provide an absolute microbiological barrier against contamination, but can still be broken down or reused.
All while keeping the product affordable for the customer.
Exactly. It's a very tightrope to walk.
Okay, but what happens when that system breaks down?
Because it does happen.
Right, say the resume has a lie on it, like an undeclared allergen slips through, or the armor fails and a batch of baby formula gets contaminated.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because traditionally, a product recall is viewed as an absolute PR nightmare.
It's usually the end of the world for a brand.
Right, accompanied by screaming news headlines. But this article points out that modern supply chains treat recalls as a tool, almost like a surgical instrument for consumer protection, assuming you have the right digital lifeline.
This changes the entire anatomy of a recall. Because of digital traceability, a recall is no longer a blunt instrument that destroys a brand.
A blunt instrument, meaning pulling everything off the shelf everywhere.
Exactly. Having robust traceability isn't a regulatory suggestion anymore. It is a strict business necessity. Traceability means having the technological capacity to track raw materials, the specific packaging batches, and the finished product through every single micro-stage of the supply chain.
So if a consumer calls in sick, the company doesn't have to panic and throw away tens of millions of dollars of inventory across the whole country. They don't have to pull every single product off every shelf.
Right. Without traceability, you have no choice but to use that blunt instrument. You pull everything, which is a financial disaster and sparks massive public panic.
Yeah, nobody wants to see empty shelves.
But with strong traceability systems utilizing QR codes and ERP software, you can isolate the danger instantly.
Wait, explain ERP for a second.
Sure.
Because we hear that acronym thrown around in business all the time. Enterprise Resource Planning. What does that actually do in a food crisis?
Think of ERP as the central nervous system of a company.
Okay.
It's software that links the warehouse, barcode scanners, the finance team, the factory floor, and the loading dock together in real time.
So everything is talking to everything else.
Everything. So if a bad batch of imported flour arrives at the facility, it is scanned into the ERP.
Right.
The system tracks exactly which mixing vat that flour went into, which specific Tuesday afternoon shift packaged it, and which specific delivery trucks took those exact boxes to which specific grocery stores.
Oh, wow. So if there is a contamination issue with that flour discovered a week later, the ERP system can identify the exact 500 boxes of product affected, flag them before they are even sold, and leave the other 50,000 boxes perfectly safe on the shelves.
You pull the bad batch, save the rest of your product line, and you can instantly hold that specific ingredient supplier accountable with hard digital evidence.
That is incredible.
It is. And the Fosco's platform actually has built-in provisions to facilitate this kind of focused recall.
So it connects directly to the government system.
Yes. It turns a potential brand-ending disaster into a demonstration of supreme competence. It allows a brand to say to the public, hey, we caught the problem, we isolated it to this one specific batch, and we protected you.
It's a powerful way to maintain trust, even when a critical mistake happens.
Absolutely.
It's like feeling the pain in one finger and treating the finger instead of amputating the whole arm.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
But tracking a product from a farm through a high-tech factory and into a major grocery chain is one thing.
Right.
Those are highly controlled environments. What blows my mind is how this digital lifeline is being tested right now by the explosion of e-commerce.
Oh, this is the Wild West.
It really is. The supply chain doesn't end at the supermarket shelf anymore. It is extending out into wild, completely unpredictable territory.
The rapid growth of e-commerce and quick commerce platforms, where you order groceries and they arrive in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I use those all the time.
We all do. But it has completely rewritten the rules of food safety.
Because it's so fast.
Because of where the food goes. The supply chain now extends deep into temporary warehouses, dark stores, local delivery hubs, and last-mile distribution networks on city streets.
I look at this last mile like the final leg of a high-stakes relay race.
Exactly.
You've got the farmer handing the baton to the factory.
Right.
The factory runs a perfect lap using all their HACCP engineering, and they hand it to the packaging team. They hand it to the climate-controlled warehouse.
A flawless run so far.
But that final runner, the gig worker on a scooter navigating potholes, or the seasonal worker in a windowless dark store, that final runner isn't even on your official team.
No, they worked for a third-party app.
Yet, they are the ones holding the gold medal, your product safety, in their hands right before crossing the finish line.
It's terrifying for a brand.
I mean, if a gig worker puts a carton of premium milk in the same uninsulated saddlebag as a hot pizza for 45 minutes in August traffic, millions of dollars of factory-level safety engineering is instantly undone.
Undone in a matter of minutes. And this raises a massive question for the industry. How do businesses ensure accountability across multiple, disjointed stakeholders?
It seems impossible.
It's incredibly difficult. A factory can produce a physically perfect, completely safe product. But maintaining that integrity requires intense coordination outside of their own four walls.
Right.
We were talking about crucial, vulnerable checkpoints in these quick commerce dark stores. They need strict temperature controls. They need rigorous handling procedures to avoid cross-contamination between raw meats and fresh produce in the delivery bags.
Yeah, you don't want raw chicken juice on your strawberry.
Exactly. And they must use FIFO logic.
FIFO, first in, first out.
Right.
Meaning, the warehouse workers have to physically rotate the stock, ensuring the older items are placed at the front of the shelf so they get sent out before the newer stuff.
Which takes time and effort.
Yeah, if they get lazy and just shove the new boxes in front, the older stuff rots in the back.
And suddenly you are shipping expired, dangerous food to a customer. Food safety responsibilities are now completely inextricably shared among manufacturers, distributors, warehouse operators, tech platforms, and delivery partners.
Everyone owns a piece of it.
Yes, the premium brand on the box is entirely reliant on the delivery partner not leaving a temperature-sensitive product sitting on a sunny porch for 3 hours.
Which is terrifying for a food manufacturer. You've invested millions in GMP, state-of-the-art ERP systems, and digital QR codes, and your reputation is suddenly riding on a 19-year-old gig worker who is just trying to make their quota for the hour.
Exactly.
It feels like this last mile is the ultimate vulnerability in the modern supply chain. You
Yeah.
can't just wash your hands of the product once it leaves your loading dock anymore.
It is a massive vulnerability as distribution channels keep evolving.
Mm.
Establishing clear accountability and enforcing strict standards across that last mile is the only way forward.
Right.
But it also highlights the core limitation of technology.
Which brings us to the core realization of this whole breakdown.
No?
You can have all the Foscos platforms, all the complex ERP software, and all the regulations in the world. You can try to digitally micromanage that final relay runner. But ultimately, rules and software are not enough.
They really aren't.
The only true safety net is human behavior. The framework of regulations is useless if the people executing them don't care.
A true food safety culture exists only when every single employee, from the senior management suite looking at spreadsheets, to the frontline workers scrubbing the factory floor, to the delivery driver packing the saddlebags, understands and actively accepts their personal responsibility for protecting the end consumer.
It's the difference between doing something just because the clipboard inspector is watching versus doing it because you know someone is going to feed this product to their child.
That is the exact shift that has to happen. It requires regular, meaningful training, rigorous internal audits, but above all, leadership commitment.
Leadership is key.
If a company's management only ever praises speed and cost cutting, the frontline workers will inevitably cut corners on safety to meet those metrics. The culture is set at the top.
That makes total sense.
India's food industry, for example, is poised for tremendous global growth right now. It's being driven by changing consumer preferences, massive advances in food processing, and expanding exports.
It's exploding.
It is. But with that massive scale comes a much greater shared responsibility.
So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, the next time someone is scrolling on their phone to order groceries or grabbing a snack off a shelf, how should they process all of this?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it means recognizing that the brands worthy of our trust are the ones that actually invest in their people and their systems.
Right.
Businesses that build a real safety culture, experience lower compliance risks, better operational efficiency, and ultimately, absolute consumer confidence.
Because they aren't just faking it.
Exactly. Organizations that embrace transparency, that don't hide their mistakes but fix them surgically, are the ones that will evolve into trusted legacy brands.
Yeah.
Because at its core, the ultimate purpose of all these acronyms, GMP, EPR, HACCP, isn't just passing an audit. It is protecting human life. Every food pack carries a silent promise.
A promise of safety, quality, and trust.
Absolutely.
And that trust is built collectively, link by link, in that invisible chain. Which leaves me with a final thought to chew on.
Okay, let's hear it.
If transparency and organizational culture are now recognized as the absolute biggest drivers of safety in this massive supply chain, how will that change our behavior as buyers?
That's a great question.
We are so used to going on an app and leaving a 5-star review for the taste of a meal or the speed of the delivery. But if traceability tech keeps evolving, will we soon see a future where consumers demand real-time data to actually rate the safety culture of the entire supply chain?
Oh, wow.
Imagine a world where you don't just see a rating for a restaurant's flavor, but a publicly visible, real-time safety culture score for the farm that grew the tomatoes, the dark store that warehoused them, and the delivery hub that brought them to you.
That would be revolutionary.
That level of transparency would completely rewrite the rules of the game.
It would make the invisible chain entirely visible. And it would give the consumer the ultimate power to hold every single link accountable.
And it would finally let us see exactly how the magic trick is done, every single time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you sit down for a simple meal, remember, it's never really that simple.